anyway, I wouldn't know Shabbos. The Seder ends really the last week at seven makkos in it. This week we have 3 makkos to finish off the 10. Pashtus, I mean, obviously from Rashi is not mashma that way, but there's other Rishonim that disagree. But the pasuk before Shvi in over here, Tupsukim before Shvi in the Eira, ki bapam hazeh shenishalech kol magifo Yisrael libcho v'avudacha v'amecha v'avutecha ki ani kamonim v'ein kamonim b'chol haaretz, goes on borod. Rashi says it goes on matzah b'choros. Somewhere it goes on borod. It goes on borod, then all the makkos should have been finished in the Eira. 7 makkos. What was the guarantee the Ben should have said? I'm not going in to understand, the writings on the matter and the stuff, because we had all the 10 makkos to simon there. So what's pshat if it could have ended before? But mainly, what that was that the Ben was going to have one time that he's going to make the achbedis liboy. 5 of them, the first 5, it says yechbad is leiv pari. Pari made his own heart hard. In other words, he wasn't convinced. He's not doing it. That's all. And for that, the Rebbeinu Shalom gave him a shchin, and that was the only one that was without, that he had no bechira on, his shchin. And the thing, though, because v'yichbad is liboy, and for that, the Rebbeinu Shalom brought the last makkah, which is kol magifo, he said borat, and we see that Pari Take realized the emes, because he says for the first time, Ani v'ami Hashem HaTzadik v'ani v'ami Rishonim. So you recognize somehow in the makkah, you recognize he's wrong. Not just that Pshat is God is stronger than him, but that he's wrong in what he's doing. And that part that he reached that, and Afal Pikain, when the makkah stopped, he was able to Vayetzach Leiv Pari means himself. So therefore now you're a dead man. There's no such thing. You can't do tshuva because you passed the point that right now anything I put to do to you, you deserve. So it doesn't make a difference. So the Rebbeinu is going to do a bunch of makkos to him for the purpose of Klal Yisrael. Normally, but Afal Pikain, he can probably still overcome it. He can still overcome, but that's what we're dealing with. And now Moshe Rabbeinu, because it is, also becomes a different change in his attitude to Pari. First of all, the Ben says boil Pari, which is a strange lashon boy. Now again, you can kind of forget about it. Sorry guys, if you didn't hear me. Boil Pari, when you put in the GPS, you put go home or come home. I don't know what you put in there. But really, the word, I go someplace. I don't go home. I mean, if I'm someplace else, where I'm really someplace else, then I have to go home. But if I'm out for the night, you're out for the school, I'm not going home, I'm coming home. And that's how I go. I go somewhere else. I'm going on vacation, I'm going this, I'm going away. But I'm coming, I come home. So Boa Pari is, you're coming home now. Pari is yours. Mitzrayim is yours. And Moshe Rabbeinu, until now, didn't speak. Aharon was the one that speaks. And all of a sudden, Moshe Rabbeinu takes over the lead role in talking to Paro. And really holding his own in the fact of even getting angry at Paro. And you will see later on. So therefore, this point that Paro reached this point, and the Bensham told, now we're not, no more games with Paro. Okay, fine. That's what we're up to. So there's several reasons why the Bensham did it. One is, first of all, that Paro should be able to, Mitzrayim, however long they are, that they'll be alive, because the question is if Paro lived or not. And this is, from davening is mashma that he did not live, that we say he died, that no one was left alive. On the other hand, they said ad echad, so it means Paro was left alive, and he becomes later on the Melech of Nineveh, and exactly how they put an Egyptian on an Assyrian city, I don't know, but Lamaisi becomes the Melech of Nineveh, and his point was to show tshuva to the world that the Keach of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you see that Nineveh did tshuva. So obviously that they recognize that there's a God, there's a thing there. So that was one thing. And the second one is simply for the Klal Yisrael. The Klal Yisrael, now we have to learn ourselves things about Pali. These are things we speak about last week. Last week we didn't say, so we didn't speak about it. Okay, so we're going to present you also a different thing. The shaila is, when did these makis take place and so on. I think I started saying something, I'm not sure. There are 4 shailas of Gula that is brought down, all right, in the beginning, where every little kid knows it. I just can't remember them, but every little kid probably does. And where it is here, where is it? Chema Vaitseisi, Vitzalti, Gaalti, and Lakachti, right? Those are the 4. And we have for Keshalio, we have a Vesi. What do they mean in plain English, Lagavayas? I mean, just because they have a bunch of synonyms, we drink that many cases of wine. If you'd have more synonyms, you'll have to drink more cases of wine. That doesn't make sense, right? Right now, we can't handle the 4 without lowering the alcohol content. So therefore, you would have done more. So surely aren't going to be anything there to it. It doesn't make sense, okay? So therefore, I'm going to tell you is 4 madregis of Gula. Let's see, what are they? That's no avodas perach. Mitzalti escha avodas, you're completely free. The Galti escha was a 2 Rishot Negdelim, became a second-class citizen, but you must be a Christian. You can be my nation and still be a free citizen, and that's the point when you became a Sabbath observer, and they have to accommodate you. The Hevesi would have been that if we would have our own country, we wouldn't have to wait for the Punjabs to make them realize that they can't impose their laws on every different group of people. That's the thing, though. And right now, at this moment that we're talking about in Parshas Bo, they are completely free. They are free to the point of being Sabbath observers, okay? And Afal Pikain, we're going to be, why do I say that they're completely free? Because it says over there by, in Masechtas Rosh Hashanah, that they became free, they batal ha'avoda on Rosh Hashanah. And Rashi says, batal ha'shibud. We were no more slaves. That means at least the part of being a free citizen started at that point. So you want to point out that that's around Shrin, if you want. Nami Chazban, not Shin, by, what's the third one? Kinim. On Kinim. Why? Because over there they said, Etzba Lekimhu. So therefore they realized that the Ben Shalom is different than all the other markets, and that the Ben Shalom is something, so therefore let's not start up with the Jews. You can become, but we're still not letting you leave the country. That's not what that we're not doing. And we'll see why the Ben Shalom does. But let's assume that is the Metzias now in Mitzrayim, that the Yidden are completely free. You can call that from there. Okay. And the first Bach, the Makir, he comes, and in this one is Arbe. Right? He tells him it's going to eat up everything. So, by the fact that and he just walks out. Now the servants of Pari, the slaves of Pari, see this and they say, "Don't you know Terem Tedek of the Mitzrayim?" Now you'll be stubborn. Mitzrayim is lost. Okay, so call him back. Right, do something about it. So Mashmi is able to do that. He's able to control himself and call him back, even though he was probably boiling and didn't want to pull him back. But the Rebbein Shalom still makes it that he can't make that shalom. If he could have kept, maybe if he really wanted to, maybe he would have been able to, but he didn't really want to. And he picks an argument, Miva Mi'aholchem, who's going? And the truth is, he asked a very, very good question. He says, Moshe Rabbeinu answers, we're going with our young ones and with old ones. And he says, why are you going with the young ones for? What are they going to do there? All you're doing is killing them. In other words, you're telling them a bunch of laws. They have hormones. They have what he called things that are driving them to do things that are aveirus. And they're young. They don't have them get to learn full control on themselves. And all you're doing is going to kill them. You're going to be chayv misa, and it's not fair. Go take it to the old people. The old people already are finished. They have no yetzaharos anymore. They can live with it. Okay. And he says, and he also tells them, he sees dam and the whatever it is and the stars, that there's something bad's going to happen to the Jews. And Rashi brings down that which dam was. It was dam hamila. Now, and that's really what Moshe Rabbeinu was arguing him. You're right. Under normal circumstances, I'm going to try to convince people under 20 to follow the Torah without preparing them for anything, without having them go to yeshiva, without giving the bris milah, without doing anything like that. You're right. All I'm doing is killing them. But we're going to start with milah, and that starts at 8 days. We're going to start with our education system from the time that they're babies. And because of that, they will come to it, they will be able to accept all these types of things, which seemingly be difficult for them. And that's the point of the audio. It's really the chinuch that we're interested in. Okay, so therefore, again, he doesn't like it, and they chase him out from Pali. But mashma that haven't left, even though they ended by Sheni, like Goshen, they chased him out. Then they really didn't chase. But like, he said, 1 second, fellow, I'm going to tell you something else. And he's going to tell them about Makas B'chayros. What do you call it? No, this was not, he didn't threaten them yet. That's if the Choshen, I'm sorry, threatened them. Sorry, I just lost myself a second. No, yes, they comes the Arbe and wipes out everything that's left in Mitzrayim. I don't know if you guys have ever seen a locust, but the 17-year locust that comes to New York City every 17 years. I remember it, but now it's the last couple of times it didn't seem so bad. But the first time I saw it, it was a tremendous noise. You heard noise the whole time, and I couldn't figure out where the noise is coming from. And then I realized it's all the alba, the grasshoppers that were around, and all the trees. They ate up all the leaves on the trees. This was in the summer, every 17 years. They lay buried in the ground, and then all of a sudden they pop up, and they eat it up. And the last 2 times wasn't so bad, so I don't know what happened to it. But the 3 times ago was real bad. Okay. And again, he says, forgive us this time, Chatosi, again, my sin, so he's speaking the right language, but he still can't help himself. He's going to go against it anyway. And the Rebbeinu brought in Cheshech, where he kills Klal Yisrael. Why is he killing Klal Yisrael now? I made you completely free. I gave you 4 degrees of freedom. That was a test for you. It wasn't just the point of freeing you, and I did it in different degrees, which is also important. But no, I gave it to you in the thing that I wanted you to realize that this is not the important part. Going out of Mitzrayim is the important part. And you don't want to go out of Mitzrayim because, hey, I got it good here. Why should I go to Mitzrayim? I like the area. We're free. We're totally free. As far as they're concerned, they come at us. And I'm used to the climate. I'm used to the thing. Everything is good. Why should I go to Mitzrayim? And for that, they all died. The biggest number that went out is 20%. So from the Medrashim, down to 0.02%, 0.02%, yeah. And one is one and one 600,000, which the number is very stark. Okay. But that's what the point of the thing. Now the kasha becomes, and I was asked this kasha, but it took me a while to figure out myself. How come it wasn't noticed that there's so many few Jews left? I mean, if you're talking about a maximum of 20%, so, hey, you guys should be 10 million here, and you guys are only 2 million, 4 million. What do you think? You should be, what do you mean? You be 20 million. And you're only 4 million. So I mean, that doesn't make any sense. How come you're so small? The Torah is, if you heard the expression, you can't see the forest because of the trees. What does that mean? It means you see the trees, the first row trees, but you don't know how deep the forest is because you can't see past the first trees. So you can't see the forest because of the trees. You have to go on top to be able to look down to see how far the forest goes back, right? So you can't see the forest because of the trees. So the same thing here. Mitzrayim is a flat country, and you can't see how many people are standing there. If you put 4 million people in front of you, you know that's not 16, 12, or 20 million. How do you know it's not 20 million? Maybe it's 20 million standing there. You can't see how far back the crowd goes, so it doesn't make a difference. So you think that it's 20 million, so therefore they never noticed that the Jews were less. If you're talking about 5 people, you're right, you have a good cash, how come there's only 5 of you? But if you're talking about 4 million, there's no big cash.
Were the 20% Seforim like after the Holocaust?
What, I'm sorry?
Were the 20% that left Seforim like after the Holocaust, 80%?
We had a lot more than 20%. We had, after the Holocaust, we only lost not even about a third, 16, about a third.
So the 20% remained with Seforim. They were probably...
Yeah, that's a different story. Okay, but we had the guys that were not Seforim, and then Baruch Hashem, the Seforim did pretty good. Yeah, so don't have to worry about them, right? He came out. Who were the big millionaires of Ger and these guys? If they're going into the thing, who were the guys that came out of the concentration camps? I think I left my hanky upstairs. Okay. So they all became big millionaires or billionaires. I don't even think often. And guys out of the camps. What the cash is, there's no cash. What the bench wants to give, will give, Baruch Hashem. Okay. So they died in the war. The reason I make a cheshbon about 4 million, you can say 3 million, 4 million. I mean, I don't have a number actually, because you only know 600,000 between 20 and 60 men. What about the people over 60? What about the people under 20? What about the women? So there you land up with about 3 to 4 million. Okay. Also a question that maybe arise, what was the chaymer of choshech? I mean, okay, they had to sit, they couldn't move, according to some. That actually you were frozen into space, into place by the darkness. It had thickness in it, and you couldn't do anything about it, right? So you couldn't move. Okay, so I say in my seat. Big deal. I have to go to the bathroom. I mean, if I didn't eat for 3 days, I probably didn't have to go to the bathroom for 3 days either. I have no idea what there was there. So what was the chaymer of the compared to Arba on one hand, and after that we're going to have Makas B'chayres. You're going up and up and up in level. So where's the level of choshech? I want to tell you that the level is to yourself in mind is a bigger einish. As far as you're concerned here, they're 6 days incapacitated. They didn't have free reign to go through their house and do whatever they want in their houses. And not one of them stole anything. In fact, the maximum we knew they were able to use that knowledge was when they came, they wanted to borrow things from the Mitzrayim, and the guy would say, well, I don't have something like that. And say, oh, yes, it is. It's in your third closet, right on the third floor, or something like that. And then you say, you knew you went through my house, and you didn't take it. So that itself is a thing, because they would not have done that. If they had that freedom to go through your house and everything else without you knowing they were even there, so for sure, they would have taken it all. And, okay. So then, then he was telling me he was going to, anyway. And the funny thing is that Paro really felt this is the thing. He's asking that they should go out after Makas Choshech. Now, even take the sheep with you, take the animals with you. Now he's finally, and Moshe Rabbeinu is now digging him even more. No, you're even going to give. Just leave your leave your cows and animals. So Moshe Rabbeinu tells him, no, you're even going to give us the stuff to do also. No, it's left the animals. What's the difference? What are they going to do with the animals? Mitzrayim. They don't eat them. They don't want to walk around the streets. What was the point of having animals in Mitzrayim? I guess it was the point just not to give in. That's the point. In other words, you want they should let you out with the sea. I'm not letting you out. Okay. Okay, and he talks about now Makas B'chayris, which is going to be the thing, which is going to be.
What's the power of the choshech? What's so bad about choshech?
Yeah.
The itching, the torture. You spoke about that. That the itching is worse than a regular.
Yeah, that they couldn't move and stuff. I said, but still, what painful or whatever. Okay. Okay, and the Ikar is the Benshim wanted now to break Mitzrayim, not so much a point of just to get us out of Mitzrayim, because Benshim he could have taken us out at any time. But now there's a point, part of the punishment is complete breaking of Mitzrayim. In other words, you claim you have a free will, you want to keep me in, you're not going to give in to anything. I'm going to break it to the point that you can't control yourself, you just kick us out. Get out of here, we just leave us alone, whatever it is there, and stuff like that. Now it's this breaking of Mitzrayim. Not that we needed their rishus. The invasion did not need their rishus. Okay. And before then, everyone was told to go and borrow things, and the only one that didn't go was Moshe Rabbeinu. Because Moshe Rabbeinu, someone had to take, you do mitzvahs, you have a kasha, I have two mitzvahs in front of me. Which one do I do first? And so they might be around mitzvahs. What are the two mitzvahs that everyone had? They could borrow clothes from everybody, and get or make money on the deal, or they should go take Yosef's bodies with them. Right? Now the logic is, what do you need 1 million people to give to take Yosef's body? Well, you need one guy. So leave me alone. So everybody wanted to take it. Moshe Rabbeinu saw everybody wanted to go borrow clothes and stuff and all the things. He's the one that was Isaac in Atzmas Yosef. So he didn't borrow anything from anybody. So he didn't have that reward, if you want to call it, the financial reward from Mitzrayim, because he didn't go around borrowing anything. So he didn't do anything. He didn't have anything. So what is his reward, they say later on, is because when he made the luchas, the second luchas, he had to carve it out himself. So when he carved out himself, not the oisias were made by God, but to get the stone, he had to carve it out himself. So the chips that the things are, they were emerald. The luchas are made out of emeralds. So therefore, all the chips of emeralds belonged to him. So he got all the chips out of it. And that's a lot of money, I guess. Okay, so therefore he made. Okay. So the Benshim now tells Klal Yisrael, Chodesh Zevachem Rosh Chodoshim. The month is the Rosh Chodoshim. Why is it Nisan the first, the Rosh Chodoshim? Because Pesach is in Nisan. So really, it's not Rosh Chodesh Nisan that's important. It's Pesach that's important. That's the 15th days of Nisan. So you see from here that there may be a thing of calling the importance of something about a 2 weeks of leeway of when something is told to you to say it happened now. In other words, what's called now? This minute, the second, and because we had this discussion way back in Bereshis about when the Rebbeinu Shalom told Avram and the Malachim told Sarah that they're going to have a child, so Malachim told him 3 days later than the Rebbeinu Shalom told him. And it says by both places, this time, as it is. Which time did he come? After the Rebbeinu Shalom's time or the Malachim's time? There's a difference of 3 days between the two times. Obviously, Parshas could be the Rebbeinu Shalom's time. Afal Pikein, it's Chodesh Chodashim, but it's still Chodesh Chodashim because of Pesach. So it's still considered the right time. So it's not a steer. It didn't have to happen right now. Even though the Malachim did make a mark, he said when it gets to that point, then sun hits that. Okay. And this is really to teach us the point of the Korban Pesach, and it's the only Korban that's called Korban Hashem. Now we have Oilos, we have Shlomim, we have Chatosim, and they're not called Korban Hashem. This is the only one that's called the Korban of God. And what's important about the Korban Pesach is that the Korban Pesach teaches us chinuch, that we have to teach our children how they have to act. And there's the thing here. So even the eating must represent that. You can't eat it raw or cooked in water. What's wrong with raw? Raw, I don't know if anybody wants to eat it in raw, but anyway, but it's very interesting that from here is mashma raw meat is edible, right? Raw fish, the Gemara says, is not edible. What sushi tell you? Raw fish is edible, raw meat I don't know about. So anyway, so it's different things. But anyway, so those things don't take any, no, you don't have to watch it. You have slow cookers, you put it on in the morning before you go to work. Time you come home from work, it's all fully cooked, and you can eat it. So you have supper, and it's cooking all day, and it's safe. It's only a fire of 100 degrees or 200 degrees or whatever it is there. And it's not going to set the house on fire, no actual flame, whatever it is. So it's a very nice thing. No is raw, as I said. So for sure you don't need preparation. But you can't eat it that way. You call it chinuch. You can't have chinuch that way and just say, lay back, I'm raising my kids, and every time I'll decide, when once in a while to maybe say something or whatever. It's liyesh, but you have to have it liyesh. If you ever watch, you ever have the grill, I guess it would be better with the charcoals than the seed chlor with the actual wood than it is with gears. You see that the fire sometimes jumps up in charcoal. You got a big fire for a second, and it gives a sear on the meat, and drops of blood fall into the fire, and the fire jumps up and sears the meat. You guess you get it burnt. Right? You want to make sure it doesn't burn, you got to jump the meat away at that second, right? So therefore, to be sure that it doesn't get burnt, you got to watch it all the time. You can't just walk away when it's thing over there. So that's how you have to do chinuch. Chinuch is total looking at, in control of, and so on. Okay. And the, what he called, okay, he made the simon. You have to have 7 days Yontif, 2 days of Yontif. In a way, it's the only Yontif that has 2 days holiday. What do I mean? Now, with Sukkot you have it also, but it's not. Sukkot is Yom HaShmini. That's what do you call it? It's a Chag Mifnei Atzmai. Shmini Atzeres is not Sukkot. It's called Sukkot for certain things. You have Tashlumim, you have other things. But it's technically, it's a different holiday, Chag HaSukkos. But L'maaseh, in Pesach, it's not a different holiday. It's the same holiday as in, you'll say, what do the 2 days represent? I mean, obviously, why the 2 days of Yontif as opposed to Sukkot is 7 days, and it's only 6 days Chol HaMoed, only 1 day holiday. The 8th day is the Hallel, but the 7 days after that, after the 6th day, after the first, but and you only have 5 days Chol Hamoed and stuff like that, because the Yikir is that here Kriyas Yamsuf takes place on the last day. So therefore there's a major event that took place. The first day was Makas Becheres and the Yitzhak that we had. The second one is Kriyas Yamsuf that it has, so therefore it's 2 days Yontif that we have on it. And then, okay, and you have to eat matzah, and you have, and what kelt is that you're not allowed to eat chametz. Okay. And Moshe calls everybody and tells them that you have this, what you have to do. And he's telling over to the Yidden, and he's adding a new thing that we have the 4 sons that are in the Agodah. Starts here, the 4 sons. Who's number 1? The Rasha. That's the number 1 son you can think about it. You know, I can give you better than I talk about the tzaddik first, right? If I talk about the other ones first. No, we talk about the Rasha first, right? And it seems to have a different solution than what the Agodah tells us. The Agodah tells us separately if your children will sell v'amartem ma'aved azeh slachem, you're supposed to haki yishinov, shock them in a certain way, and the question is what shocking, throw them out of the house, whatever it is, but you got to shock them. Okay, here it says you'll come to the land, and now they're not and they want to understand what a shacket is. In America, if the kids came to us and asked the question, I have no kasha, what they will ask it. They go to school, they learn liberalism, they learn what he called history is false, everything there, nothing ever happened, we never went out of Mitzrayim. What do you guys do? You still act with those archaic laws that you've been doing till now, you keep doing it, and tell you a story with my wife, just bragging at this point now. When she was in school, she had a professor, I guess, who they had it was a seminar, and therefore it was like more personal, whatever it is. There was a small group around the thing there, and there was a very successful Zman or session or term, whatever you want to call it. And the professor said, I think we should all go out and celebrate in this restaurant. Is there anybody here that can't go? And my wife said, I'm sorry, I can't go. Why not? Because I eat kosher. You eat kosher, you still keep those archaic laws. That's what reminded me by using that word archaic. You still keep those archaic laws. And she said, yes, I do. Until Moses comes down and tells me there's a new set, that's what I keep. And she says, good for you. I would have said, I've heard the answer is, what do you call it? That Moses was a smart man and he knew what things you can eat. It's kosher and stuff like that. You're telling me you're not apologetic for anything you're saying, and therefore good for you. Where can we eat? And that time they went to a place called Moshe Peking. It doesn't exist anymore. The first kosher Chinese restaurant, and they went there. Okay, that was the mice. In the end, these people, what he called, actually, the husband wrote it. He had a first wife. He wrote her a get. He also sat in a sukkah, in the thing there. And years later, my wife saw in the Times. Doctors Fox announced a wedding, and the only doctors Fox that she knew was this professor, and so she said, "It can't be, such a toyist, 2 professors called Fox. So she called up on a gamble to wish Mazel Tov, the other thing, and she said, "You wouldn't believe it, but she's marrying a Shem Shabbos, and she is a Shem Shabbos." And that's all because she kept archaic laws. Anyway, so we're talking about this Choshe. So there it says what to do with him. And here it seems to say a little bit different. They'll say, we came to Eretz Yisrael, we're in Eretz Yisrael for generations, and all of a sudden they turn around and they say, what are you guys talking about? What do you think we're in Eretz Yisrael for? What do you think we came to Eretz Yisrael from? What are you talking about? We're here for hundreds of years already, and you're going to tell me that we had God sent us here. What are you going to do? What are you guys doing? So he says to them, so you're going to tell this to the kids. They're going to believe you just as much as they did before. But who is the Amartim? To who? As it means, talk to yourself. Amartim, the actual, what I'm going to do is Haki Yeshinov. But how do I get the attitude, the ability to do that? And so on. So Amartim, first I have to realize that this is Korban Pesach, that God skipped the Jews, and he saved when he punished them, and he saved our houses. Our houses are no different than the Mitzrayim houses. We both were the same Avodah, like the Yam didn't want to drown the Mitzrayim without the Jews. I mean, like you kill me, I'll kill Avodah Zarah. You understand? You can't tell me these Avodah Zarah here, these Avodah Zarah not. No, the thing is, a Yid is not a Goy. And I mean, my biggest riot to this, a little bit as far as history goes, a more modern history, is the two Yorshim of Lenin, was Trotsky and Stalin. Trotsky, both were murderers. Killed millions of people. But Trotsky was a Jew, and he did it l'shem shemayim. He wanted to make a better world for the peasant, for the poor people. And mainly he killed out whatever he killed out to make communism, whatever it is. Stalin wanted the power that came with it. And that was the difference between the Yid and the Goy. And that's why he had to get rid of Trotsky. So when they heard that there's a difference in the Yid and the Goy, Vayikoid home Vayishtachavu. What do they bow down for? It's like As Psulas Habonim, Rashi says, because you told me you're going to have children. What children? Koshoyim. Yes, but if what I have, it still has a chance to become a tzaddik. Doesn't make a difference. I'll take the Rosh kid also. He's a Jew. That's a different thing. And therefore, we always have that hope. And that's the whole hope of the Korban Pesach, that they always can bring everybody back. There's no such thing. The Rosh too. They're back to it. But the actual method is we have to shock him. And that's why you have the thing there. And that's the lessons to us that this celebrates the difference dimension between these Avodah and these Avodah. Okay? And the Rebbeinu Shalom did all this, and he killed all the things often. And on this night, we're going to have it that he also was Magdish, the Bechorim of the Petarechem. Until now, there's no Kiddush of a Petarechem. There's no such thing as a Bechor, a Petarechem. The Bechor of, there is. And how do we know that? Because the case that we have of such a case is by Yehuda, when Tamar is giving birth, and she has Zerach and Peretz are going to get born, right? So what does it say over there? It says, it doesn't turn so easy. Okay. I'm sorry here. Vahi k'meisha v'syode v'niyot tzorchi Vahi belitato vahi te yod atikach miyaledes atik shal yodei. Shoni lema ze yod tzorishona. This one is going to come out first. Didn't say ze yabachor. This one will come out first because no dinik b'chayra. Of course, he already had Avayainon, and he had Sheva was still alive, so he already had a Bechor of. But the Bechor aim, so this one will come out first. It's not a Bechor. It's just a baby. Okay. It came out as this thing. So he's Magdish. Now, why was he Magdish this? Because the Benish says, Ein Baiz Shirash Ein Shom Mes. And Rashi brings a very strange custom or it's not even snus, it's not even taiva. I can't even explain what it is, because the women, the wives of the Mitzrayim, were only mezana with single people, with bachur, not with a married man. So exactly why that is, I can't answer you. So it could be in one house. She could have lived with 10 guys, and there'll be the b'churim of 10 different people, right? So in her house, in that guy's house, 10 kids would die. While in 10 other houses, where all these guys got married a second time, right? It's not their b'chur anymore, their oldest kid, right? Nobody knows that it's not their b'chur. So it'll only be, so 9 of them will be alive. So the Mitzrayim will say it's a lie. You're not killing out the b'churim. Of course, you only should have killed 1 in this house and 1 in every house. And you killed 9 in this house, 10 in this house, and you killed none in 9 other houses. It doesn't make any sense if you're killing b'churim. So the Rebbeinu, in order to avoid that, all of a sudden was magdish the b'chur ha'im, that even though you're taking out the b'chur of anymore, but you still the b'chur ha'im, so the 6th, her 11th kid died, or whatever it is there, or the 4th kid died. And also could be, and he's also in the Gadol HaBayis. Gadol HaBayis, I don't know exactly that is there, because Pashtas means the oldest boy in the family. We don't find the tightness that an older boy has to have. No such thing. Yet we do find a tightness that a girl has to have. In other words, if a b'chur has a child that's a b'chur, so the mother has to fast till the kid can fast for himself. Why? Because there's you have 2 b'churim. The father can't fast for him because the father's fasting for himself. So the mother has to take over. Now, why would a mother have to fast? So if you hold the mother's died also, so that makes sense. The woman died, and the oldest child died. But it doesn't say that. He's only the oldest boy. I don't know the answer to this kasha, so I can't answer you. But that thing I have the problem with. Okay. And everybody wanted to kick him out, and the Rebbeinu said, "You're not leaving." And if you ask me, I think Paray finally got his biggest heart attack that he had was on this occasion. All of a sudden, not only was the Bechira taken from when to kick the Jews out, but he had a fear, what happened if the Jews decide to stay? You just put the Tzraim is on the bottom, they're dying, right? They're all scared stiff. Also, we don't have to leave. Take over the country. So he had it in talk until the Yidden left. That was probably a bigger oynish than the kid dying. There's fear that they're not leaving. Okay. Okay, everybody leaves. Again, how did the Vayefers habotzik asher tiv Mitzrayim uges matzis? So one pshat is that the sun baked it. On that, l'chayr it's chometz gomo. Right? Because it got hot and a little bit, and it got that process should have made it. So you got to say the Rebbeinu Shalom made a ness that actually baked this matzah. In other words, this chash that we have, maybe it was the chometz, that didn't exist. The Rebbeinu Shalom made a ness, made man matzah. Okay, we can say that. We can say another pshat. It would be a simpler pshat, but it's not so much with the words in the thing. That's the Yishal, exactly what actually happened, so I can't tell you, is that they were baking for the morning. There was no reason for them. They had the korban, they ate the night, what they had to eat, the korban Pesach and the matzahs, and they ate that night, and they're not allowed to leave the house all night. So now we got to bake for the next day. Either we're going out of Mitzrayim or not going out of Mitzrayim, we still got to bake for the next day. So they're baking. And since it was so fast, they didn't really expect to go out because the Rebbeinu already told them before. They expected when every makkah we're going out. And in the end, we didn't go out. So therefore, this time they all said, we're not going out. So that's the case. So they were slow. So when they all of a sudden tell them we're running, we got to go. We're going. Give me 2 minutes or a minute, and we'll make the matzah. And that's what it takes. Talk about only about a minute or 2 minutes, and that's it. You put it into the fire, and then you get the matzah comes out. So they wait. So they were forced to bake matzah. No, but they baked it at home. When they baked matzah, but they were forced to bake matzah. Okay. And when it goes into the point of the Indian being in Mitzrayim 430 years. And Rashi makes the cheshbon why it's 430 years. First 400 years between Mitzrayim and other lands, because since the Shibud since Eretz Loilahem started with Yitzchak's birth, so in the Mitzrayim they were 210 years, so it's from Eretz Canaan for 190 years, 210 in Eretz Mitzrayim, and 30 years from the Psula Ben Absalom, which took place when he was 30 years old. So here you know, Klor, that Lech Lecha was not fitting Keseder, because this part of Lech Lecha, the Bris Bar Absalom, was definitely after Lech Lecha Me'altzach and Latra, which took place when he was 75 years old. So, okay, exactly, so what shaykhs from the Psula really have to do with the Maisa? I don't know. If I would have said 325 years, I'd probably have an answer. I'm 425 years. Not 300, 430. 425, I have an answer. That maybe it says they went to Pali the first time. They went down when they went out to Mitzrayim when he was 75 years old. And then, really, they should have stayed in Mitzrayim from then on. But what happened was that Pari kicked them out. But without that, if Pari would have let them stay, they would have stayed there. So it would have been, from the yeshiva, it could have started from then. Why is he mentioning it here? Because he told me about it. What's that got to do? They say at the end of 430 years from the time we were warned. Okay, that I understand, but not from the time that we were 430 years of its time. Okay. Okay. And he tells us that this is the thing, and Taisir Socher, and all these things. And the one end, and an Indian is somehow it says that you don't really want to go at the Seder. That guy doesn't belong there. It has nothing to do with it, because it's a thing of understanding that Hashkof is a Klal Yisrael. And they have to, and the Iker is, they have to have that bris with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that was made a milah. If there was anyone that didn't make that bris in the family, the whole family is puzzled. It's not not the whole family, the brothers and sisters will not be puzzled, but the parent would. Okay. And this is the thing, this is the chesed of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that he says, chesed ne'orayich. I remember the chesed of Yechina, and then some of the schusim that Klal Yisrael has, as hayom hazeh, is Yetzias Mitzrayim. Is the fact that they went out in the Eretz Loizaruah, without any preparation. The only food they had was what they made for the Sop and Pesach, or whatever they had was left over from this morning, the stuff that they made. And that's it. One day's thing, which lasted for 30 days. Of Lamaisa, it was a very minimal thing, and they didn't ask where they're going, they didn't ask them what they're doing, and they were free. Right? They didn't know they're going to die if they don't want to go out. You know, they're thinking, we're going. That's it. We're going. Wherever God takes us, it doesn't make a difference. We're going. And now they didn't have to cautious. That's why you trusted me to that extent. Then if that is chesed ne'orayich. Okay. Then he talks. Okay. We talk about the union of Kaddish Likor, which is Peter Korech Mene Yisrael, as they told you, because that. But this is a transitional Kedusha. It is not a permanent Kedusha. Kedusha of is a permanent Kedusha. You're the Bechor of the Av. You have certain rights which go for the rest of your life, Bishnayim, whatever it is there. There's something that you get because you're the Bechor. But on the other hand, being the Bechor Ha'im is no yichus. You know, what do you call it? And yet, we say that there's a need of being Kedusha. May you Kaddishli Kol Bechor. I want you to make them holy. Now, how do you make the guy holy? So the first thing you should say is, be holy, right? And like you do in Parshas Kedeshim. And they Kedeshim to you. You're supposed to be Kedeshim. How? I'll give you a whole list of things that you got to do. Right? That's not what he said. He tells Moshe, you make them holy. Okay, so what did Moshe do? Moshe doesn't even tell the Jews that. Remember the day he went out of Mitzrayim. Why? Because as we spoke before, when was the end of freedom? That was Rosh Hashanah. I mean, the end of Shibud, that was Rosh Hashanah. When that we actually were free was before we started these Makis B'chayos and stuff like that. This is only to get us out of Mitzrayim. The purpose of getting it out is to get us out of Mitzrayim. And that is for us to lose the concept of the culture of Mitzrayim. That's very important to us, that we shouldn't have the culture of anything, of America, of anything that we have. The Rebbe doesn't want that. It doesn't come in, doesn't fit with Yiddishkeit. I'll give you what that would even mean in English. Well, one of the things is that winning is everything. You're a loser if you come in second. Right? You lost, doesn't make a difference. Right? You're a loser. That's the whole point of this thing. That's an American thing there. In fact, they use them as part of the sports system. Where they used to try to knock out the quarterbacks, and they used to pay an extra bonus until they were fined. The thing there. But that was a professional football. It wasn't among kids and stuff like that. No, the idea is to win, and we don't care how you win. You can cheat, you can do anything you do to win, but you have to win. And that, of course, is not the purpose of anything else. And that's a cultural thing that we don't want. And the Rebbeinu Shem didn't want the culture of Spain in Klal Yisrael. And therefore, the more he didn't want it, the more difficult was the exit. Now, they didn't kill us, but they shot off a good third of Klal Yisrael for sure. 2/3 maybe, according to them, of those in Spain at the time. 1/3 willingly and 1/3 unwillingly. But they were basically, they were shmadza, and 1/3 left, and then like that. And those are the numbers that they give. I have no idea what the real numbers were. When the Nazis or the Germans were the most liberal of all countries, right? And yet we don't buy German. We don't want anything that's German. We don't want it. Why? Because he wanted us to hate them. And they say the French is that because we wanted them so much that the American made it that we should hate them. So America, I don't know how that is and stuff, but let's hope that it's not that. And the point that we should definitely work on, the point that to get rid of the culture of Mitzrayim. And the question is, how do you do that? He says, so you told me one thing is, remember the day when Adam Mitzrayim, not the day became free, because free is not the important part. It was the day you left Mitzrayim. And if you want to put it maybe, I don't know exactly in the words, these people like this, but it's not, I don't know how dicta correct it is, but the true words we should say is, the day you went out of Mitzrayim, it says mi Mitzrayim. You don't say Yitzias Mitzrayim. Yitzias from Mitzrayim, mi Mitzrayim, not Mitzrayim. So it means the exiting of Egypt. Mitzrayim didn't exit anywhere. It's still there. Doesn't make a difference. So it means that when time left us would be pshat. But it could be in Digduk, it could still be a correct perception where they we left. Okay. That's one thing you have to do. Layochel chometz is number 2. That means sur merah. And ahim atemetzim chodesh aviv, to remember that it's springtime. Pesach must always fall out in the spring. That's why we have our calendar of Cheseres, where we have 7 Shemitah, 7, what do you call it, years every 19 years, 7 Molay, 7 leap years every 19 years. As opposed to that, it can be like Ramadan. It comes out in the summer, it comes out in the winter. If it just goes out on the lunar calendar and comes out, changes every 354 days, and that's it. But no, it's a din that we has to be in the spring. Why? Because spring is a time of renewal, the need of tshuva. Those things that you have to know. You have to get rid of the culture, you have to sumera, and you should always know there's always a hope for the future. When you come to El Takanani, there's 3 other new mitzvahs. One is you have to commit yourself to chinuch. Your point. You should do good. You must do asay tov. And you have to do good to such a degree that people won't ever remember that you were bad. You'll ask me, how's that possible? What do you mean? Anybody remembers me? Do you remember I was a wilde kid, the kid? I was a guy in front of me. Let's take Rish Lakish. I'm sure they all knew the story of Rish Lakish. And if they didn't, there must have been somebody that knew the story of Rish Lakish, right? Where did he come from? Rish Lakish all of a sudden shows up in Yeshiva. He marries Yepirchan's daughter, a sister Menach, and all of a sudden he's becoming a partner of Rosh Yeshiva with him. Which yeshivas did he go to when he was a kid? I don't remember him. I was in that yeshiva. He wasn't there. Right? So who remembers Rish Lakish when he was a kid? Even though there was a time when he was supposed to be formal, according to Tesis and stuff like that. But whatever it was there, there was no time. So l'chayri, everybody should know Rish Lakish's story. And yet it says that anybody would see Rish Lakish talking to somebody b'shuk, they would loan that person money without a star, without yedim. Because if Rish Lakish spoke to him, he must be honest. Rish Lakish is the crook himself, so how do you have that thought about him? You don't know Rish Lakish. Rish Lakish is not a crook. Look at that, he's the tzaddik. What are you talking about? But he was a crook. What are you talking about? What difference does it make what he was the crook? Right now, that's לעילוי. No, people won't remember, not because they have no memories. It's just that in you they see it. It doesn't exist. It's not there. So there's nothing, you're perfect. No, and if you do that, then I would assume every Rebbe has to do this, every parent has to do this, not to act as much as they can, that the kids should learn from them, and therefore because they watch what to do, it's a very funny thing. You stifle their, what do you call it? They don't ask any questions. They do because that's what you have to do, right? So it's wonderful that we call him now all of a sudden an Enig Yedei Elishol. He doesn't know how to ask. He's not the guy with the thumb in his mouth. He's the guy, he's the big tzaddik. He's the guy that he's talking to, and he says to him, if you reach that madrega, you can do those 6 things about yourself. That anymore, now you can talk to your kid and say, son, you know what the thought of life is all about? It's about bavuzeh, to do mitzvahs. The whole tachlis of life is asiyas ha-mitzvahs. And therefore, and they can only tell it to them if they see it in you. If you don't see it in you, there's nothing for them to tell them to, because they're not going to listen. But if they see it in you, then they're going to listen. Right? And it doesn't say anywhere in this parsha the word that you pay the bechor. There's no opinion bechor here. That first comes into the next parsha, which is in the parsha of the Tam. Because the guy you made him holy, he's always holy. There's nothing holy. There's no, you don't redeem his holiness. His holiness remains forever. It's only transitional if you make it transitional. In other words, you don't want to be holy anymore, so you give it up, you sell it, whatever it is, you redeem it. But the Maisa, you can remain holy the rest of your life. Little stuff here. The Tam is a different Indian altogether. A good Shabbos, everybody.